Hey everybody, welcome to Monday meditation class with Seth. I have a whole new rig here set up, so I've got like a mic hanging over and a nice lens for my phone and a tripod, so I hope the picture looks nicer, I hope the sound is nicer. I'm working on improving this, so also please, if you have any comments, let me know. And also, if you have any questions, I am happy to address certain themes for these Monday classes. So if there's anything in your own practice that you're working on, questions about meditation, questions about me, questions about life, right? Like what happens if this happens, what do I do? Feel free just to add those in the comments and I can incorporate them in the future talks. So these talks are also a little bit more of a dialogue. So for today's talk, I kind of wanted to start, since we're kind of just beginning this series, to really go into what I would call the essence of practice, right? The essence. What are we doing here? A kind of wordplay that I like to use is that I like to say that we are human beings. So you have these two parts. You have the human and you have the being. The human element would be kind of like all of those things that we're doing all day long. They'd be our name, our relationship, our body, our thoughts, our feelings, the roles that we play in life, the storylines that we attach to everything. And then there's this being. And being, the word being, right, it's to be, but that we are human beings, that there's a beingness, that there's this awakeness, this awareness, this consciousness that's kind of elemental, that's at the root of all of this, that's almost behind it all, that's experiencing in each moment, right, that's here. So I say that, a mind without a body is a ghost, and a body without a mind is a corpse. So we are the mind and the body both together. In Sanskrit, and so in Buddhism actually, so in Pali they say nama and rupa, so it's kind of like the mentality and the materiality are put together, and that's what creates us. So when I talk about the being quality or the beingness, it's kind of like, what is behind all of those experiences? What is the most elemental part of this experience that you can get to? And I use this specifically because in my own meditation, the deepest places that I've gotten, the deepest meditations that I've reached, it's just led to this state of subtle beingness, that the kind of outside world dropped away, all of the senses retracted on themselves. There was no more thoughts, there was no more sense of the body, there was no more really even sense of duality of myself and another thing. It was just this kind of space and this awareness, just a beingness, right? And this quality of beingness, it's kind of where we want to head towards. How to almost refine our state of being, how to release more of the human, right? Release more of the thoughts, release more of the blocks, release more of the busyness and the things that get in the way of just that pure state of being. And when we practice, we slowly try to work towards that state of being. And this is really the paradox. I would say this is what's difficult for many people. This is what's difficult to kind of understand, to comprehend, and it's also difficult to put into practice, so to say, because you are already being. You already are. It's already happening. And anything that you do is actually bringing you out of the state of being into a state of doing, right? So it's like we're not human beings usually, we're human doings. We're in a constant state of doing. And to come back to that state of being means that you have to stop doing things. And that's hard because we sit down to meditate and we're like, okay, what do I do? Right? We want to do something. We want to have like an active role. We like to control things. We like to get results by doing. And for me to say to you, just be, it almost feels uncomfortable. It's like, well, what do you mean just be? Or some people feel like, well, I'm being already all day long and I'm miserable. That's why I want to meditate, to get out of this thing. So it takes some work to kind of slowly understand what that means and how to get there. And it's really like an invisible landscape that we're navigating, right? If it was a road map, I could just say to you, oh, you go to the river, you make a left, you go down this place and see that house, and I can kind of give you these directions. But this is more of an invisible landscape that, we have kind of landmarks and we have things that we can identify where we are, where we're heading, but it's kind of an experiential thing. And that's what kind of makes it tricky, and that also, you know, we are so used to doing, we are so used to always being in the driver's seat, at least thinking we're in the driver's seat, that we're always so busy and we're doing, we don't really know what it means just to be, except in little in-between moments. And I'll give you some examples. I like to tell people, you know, when they go to the beach. When you go to the beach, you're sitting there in the sand, you have the sun, right? You have the water coming, and it's really peaceful and it's relaxing, and you can just be there. And that feeling of when you're sitting on the beach and it's just like, you know, almost that feeling of being on vacation, you can just relax, you can just be. It's almost as if everything is accomplished for you and you can just relax. I had a similar feeling. I climbed a mountain the other day, and when I got to the top of the mountain, I really reflected, you know, why are so many temples and monasteries and things on top of mountains? Why are mountains such holy kind of places? And it's really because you have to put in this effort and this work, and you're kind of climbing and you're sweating and it's painful, and there's kind of challenges and obstacles, you have to figure it out, and there's this path with a destination, which is kind of like a metaphor for life, and you're kind of going through. But eventually when you get to the top of the mountain, you can sit down and there's nothing else to do. That it's as if you reach this place where you're allowed just to be, to sit and enjoy and just take in the view. And it's as if you climb the mountain just to be able to get to that place where you can stop doing and just be. Same thing when you go on vacation, actually. You know, we pay a lot of money, we go to these beautiful places, but ultimately all we're really looking for is that sense of just being, that we can get to that place where we can just let go and fully be present. So I often tell people that meditation, it's like being able to take a vacation, because you can just slowly get to this place where you can just be right where you are, and you could feel that same peace, you can feel that same relaxation, you can feel that same kind of tranquility wherever you are, just by letting go of everything that's stopping you from just being here, right? So the state of being. So just to explain a little bit about the meditations that I lead, I usually guide people first kind of into the body. We breathe in through the nose, we breathe out through the mouth. This triggers almost like a biological relaxation system, like almost like when you sigh, right? You're putting down this load, you're putting down this weight. And then when I lead us piece by piece through the body, this is just to kind of gather the mind, right? It's to start controlling the mind, leading the mind where we want it to go, slowly concentrating it, and in relaxation, so we know it's safe, it feels okay to be, you know, present here, it's okay to let go. And then I lead us to feel the ground beneath us, which is just a great way to then even leave the body completely and just expand the awareness and expand also to the space around us, right? To really just let go of everything that we usually identify with and hold on to and try to kind of manipulate and control. If you're just feeling the space around you, there's nothing you can do. That space is out of your control. It's just open. But if you can feel the space around you and relax in that, your work is pretty much done. That's all you actually have to do. And then I bring us from that place back to the breath. The breath is kind of an anchor point. It's a bridge that from the Buddha actually gave us this, that you feel the breath and you just relax, and as the breath flows naturally, as it's already happening, you just be with the breath, right? That state of being together with the breath. Eventually, that starts to feel really good. That starts to feel really peaceful and really relaxing. What then happens is that the mind is drawn into it. So this is an important thing to know, so I give this as examples, right? Because the mind and the body are connected. If you touch something hot, what happens, right? You pull your finger back because it hurts, right? If you step on something sharp, what do? You pull your foot back because it hurts. So the mind and the body are connected, so whatever the body does, the mind is doing. So actually, you can see how the mind behaves by how the body reacts. So if the body naturally is averse to pain, if the body naturally pulls away from things that are not pleasant, and conversely, right, how does it feel when you lay down in bed at night, right? You know, what is it when you smell something nice, right? I have some really nice incense going here next to me. You smell something nice, you're drawn into it, right? You see a beautiful person, whoa, you know? You see a nice view, wow, right? That our senses, we open up, the mind goes into things that it likes, that it feels are pleasurable, right? So as you're sitting here and breathing and relaxing, it starts to feel pleasurable. And so the mind naturally starts to get drawn into that, right? The mind starts to go in to that feeling of pleasure, the feeling of, ooh, this is nice. And slowly that pleasure starts to overcome the body, overcome the mind. Instead of having thoughts in the mind just has this pleasure. It's just presence, right? It's just like, wow, what is this? It feels nice. And it feels really cooling, and it feels almost relieving, right? It's this really beautiful, peaceful feeling. And slowly that peacefulness gets more and more sharp, more and more intense. And actually you don't even feel the breath anymore. Eventually the mind just concentrates into that peacefulness. It concentrates around the emotion. And that's what then eventually propels you deep into the meditation as the mind unifies onto itself. So a lot of people don't know this. This is kind of like a monk hack, right? This is something that I had to learn in the monastery. And when I go and talk to a lot of meditation teachers, they don't really get this point. A lot of meditation practitioners, they don't really get this point. That if it doesn't feel good, it's not going to work, right? So the state of being happens because it feels good, right? It's difficult for us to just be present when we're at the dentist, right? Or when we're sitting in traffic, or if we're in an argument with somebody, right? We're stressed. We kind of want to get out of it. We're being forced to be there, and we don't want to be there. And it's kind of this really tense situation. It's stressful. And the definition of stress is being at war with the present moment, right? And you could think about that a little bit, that stress is literally that there's something in the present moment, either that's not here that you want, or that is here and you don't want, right? That is the definition of stress, is that you're not accepting the present moment, that you're in your car and you want to be home, right? That someone's yelling at you and you wish they weren't, that there's an angry dog running at you and you wish that it wasn't an angry dog and it was, an apple pie being brought to you or something. So stress is, at any time we're at odds with the present moment, that's that tension. It's how things actually are, how we want things to be, and that tension in between, that's called stress. So also just for yourself, any time in your life that you feel stressed, take a look at that. What is it that I want this present moment to be that it's not? And see if you could let that go, see if you can shift your understanding, whether that means just being patient because it is coming, whether that means accepting that that's not how things are and I have to change my perspective, or whether that means that I'm doing something incorrectly and I have to kind of reconfigure. But anyway, so that feeling of goodness, right? That feeling of peace, that feeling of relaxation, that comes from being kind of in line with the present moment, that everything is like it is, everything is fine, right? Everything is just here, and that allows us to just be. I know, John Kabat-Zinn, he does this, mindfulness-based stress reduction, and he has some really good books out there also. And I read one of his books called Full Catastrophe Living, I believe is the name. And he says that he goes into the pain wards of some of, the biggest hospitals in the world, and he goes into the pain wards, and he says, give me your most difficult patients that you can't cure, that you don't know what to do with. And he goes up to these people in chronic pain, and he meditates with them. And how he begins is he says, start by just closing your eyes, being present, and going into whatever is the strongest perception that you have in this moment, the strongest experience that you're having. So whether that's like a pain in your body, whether that's something you're hearing, whether that's like a thought, whatever is the loudest thing in your perception, go to that thing and just rest with it. Yeah, just be with that thing. And then something else might come in. And then, okay, and then just be with that thing. So we're not fighting, we're not trying to push things away, right? I'm not trying to get a peaceful mind by forcefully moving things away, but I'm also not trying to bring things in. I'm not busy, I'm not doing. I'm allowing myself to be with whatever it is that I'm experiencing. And as we start to allow ourselves to be, that beingness, we're building up almost a new karma, a new momentum, a new direction of just being. Right? That there, in this moment and every moment, there's some things that are really pleasurable, some things that are nice, some things that feel good just to be with, and some things that are not pleasurable, right? You always are going to find little irritations in a moment, whether it's a pain in your leg or in your neck, or a certain thought, or something unresolved, a feeling in you, or noises around you, outside of you, that there's always little unresolved bits and things going on that are not 100% lining up to how you want them to be, and that's called life. Yeah, that's called life. but also in every moment there's enough things that are fine, right? There's no bombs dropping on me right now, right? I don't have that dog biting my arm, right? That there are actually things in this moment, like it feels good to be sitting here. It feels good not to have to be talking on the phone to anybody or doing work or, paying taxes. There's all these things that I'm happy that I'm not doing right now. So in each moment, there's a lot of things that are really positive, and there's a lot of things that are really difficult. And you could focus on the difficult things. A lot of people do. I think we call them negative people, right? Because they're always just focusing on the difficulties, the problems. But in every moment, there's also good things. One of my teachers, Ajahn Brahm, he told a story about a farmer who every night would go into the chicken coop, and he would receive the produce from the chickens. And he'd come in with the basket, and then he would flip over the basket on the table, and he dumped out then a basket full of chicken shit on the counter. And his wife looked at him and she said, "You idiot, that's the wrong thing." And he goes, "Oh," and he goes back in and he collects the eggs, and then he brings the eggs in, And that's kind of like a metaphor for us, because there is both shit and eggs. They're both equally real products of the chicken. But which one are you bringing into your home? Which one are you putting on your table? And which ones should you just leave out there? Which ones should you not even deal with or worry about? Don't even give them your mind or your attention, right? And so in that state of being, you're going to sit there and you're going to realize that there are some pains, there are some things that are kind of difficult, and there are some things that are pleasant, some things that are nice. Knowing how the mind works, knowing that the mind is drawn to nice things and it pushes away from the difficult things, in your experience, if there's something that's like kind of like irritating or annoying, of course see if you can do something, right? If you have really bad leg pain, move your leg, it's fine. But ultimately, you're going to reach a point where you will have like itches all over your face and things will be not quite right. And there's going to be a point where you're just going to have to say, you know what, it's good enough, right? It's good enough like it is. I'm going to just allow, forbear, release all of the things that are kind of irritating and disrupting for me. And then I'm also going to just gently incline the mind towards those things that are pleasant. I'm going to just allow my mind to relax, to feel good, to take the small life break for myself and be on this vacation and just relax, right? And just enjoy. So that's kind of what being entails, right? It's that when you're being, you're experiencing kind of both sides of the spectrum, right? The good and the bad. You're experiencing the pleasant and the unpleasant. And then you're slowly softening to the unpleasant things. You're slowly allowing them. You're easing up on them. You're not trying to kill them and destroy them and push them away. You're saying, okay, you're there, but then simultaneously you're acknowledging the things that are pleasant, that are nice, that do feel good, and you let your mind slowly just drift into those things, right? So you're not really doing anything. It's more of like an intention. It's a mindset. It's an understanding. Yeah, you're intending to allow the mind to drift into the pleasant. Yeah, and that's kind of the direction and the goal of meditation, is when you drift enough into the pleasant, it'll strengthen, right? Whatever we give our attention to, that's what gets stronger and louder, right? So it'll strengthen, and that's what eventually pulls the mind deeper and it pulls the mind in. So for today's meditation that I'm going to guide you through, that's going to be our direction. That's going to be our intention, is that we're going to just be with whatever we're experiencing, and then also gently start inclining the mind towards the positive, towards the pleasant, towards the things that the mind wants to be with. And that's going to allow our mind to get softer and kind of fall deeper in. Okay, so let's try meditation on the next video.